If you're rated between 14 and 1600, or you want to be rated between 14 and 1600 at some point in your life, you need to make sure you understand these 5 critical endgame concepts in king and pawn endings. It's going to help you to win more games that you would otherwise draw, and it's going to help you to draw more games that you would otherwise lose. Okay, this is very, very important. This is continuing our endgame course. There's a playlist with all these videos. You can watch the previous ones if you would like. Let's go ahead and get started right now. So this position is a very interesting position. Both kings are attacking the opponent's pawns, okay? They're also defending their own pawns. So what this means is that whoever has to move loses. Okay, this is a special term called trebuchet, I believe is how you pronounce it. Maybe I'm messing that up, but it's essentially a mutual Zugzwang where both players would like it to be the other person's turn. Okay, whoever moves loses. And the reason is very simple. Let's say it's white's turn. You have to move your king somewhere. You're not allowed to go where this king is defending it. You're not allowed to go into your own pawn. You can't go here because of the pawn, which means you have to go to one of these squares. The problem with all of those squares, doesn't matter, is that your pawn is now undefended and black simply takes you. And then he's got a pawn he's going to push down and he's going to win. Your king's not in a good position to stop that. The same thing is true as if it's black's turn. Black can't go here because the pawn. You can't take this because the king, which means you have to go to one of these squares. And as soon as you do, white says, thank you very much, takes your pawn. And guess what? Now white is going to win because your king can't get into position to stop this pawn. He's just going to escort it down like this and get a queen. Okay, so this position is very, very critical that you understand. What was the position? Was it like this one, I think? It's very critical that you understand this. Now you might say, Nelson, that doesn't look like it's very helpful. Well, let me actually show you this. So here we go. We have this position. It is white's turn, and you need to figure out what move you should play. White's pawns are going forward, black's pawns are going this way. What should you do and why? All right, well, if you had a chance to think about that, this is a very tricky position. And I think a lot of people would be tempted to play king h5, take this pawn, and then head back over here and try to take this pawn, right? And if you didn't know what I just showed you about the trebuchet, you might think that's a good plan. But watch what happens. And you guys should have been able to calculate this if you tried. Now, it's maybe a little bit difficult because there's one tricky moment, but watch this. King goes here. Black's going to come in and take your pawn. You say, fine, I don't care. Take. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to go here, right? But watch this. Black plays king to d3. This is a critical move because they're attacking your pawn, forcing you to defend your pawn by going here. And then guess what? Boom. They get the critical position. It's now your turn, and you're going to lose the game. And maybe what you calculated was, well, you thought they were going to immediately go here, and you thought you could get it, which if that happens, you would win the game, right? But they don't have to. And if they're smart, they would trick you by going here. You have to defend, boom, they get you in the Zugzwang, and you're going to lose, okay? So you can see how if you knew this, and this was kind of in the back of your mind, going back to the original position here, you maybe would say, no, I don't think I want to go that route. Let me go a different route. And actually, if you're wondering, the way that you draw this position is king to g4. You just wait. We'll take this pawn later. First, let's go and get this one so we avoid any crazy mutual Zugzwang situations. Okay. And now I can safely go and get this pawn, and black's going to take your pawn. It's just going to be a draw, right? It's going to be something like this. He goes here, you go here, and then you just trade your pawns. Okay? But that's how that concept can help you in more complicated positions. All right? Let's go to number 2, the second concept that you need to understand. Here we go. It's white to play. Is this a win for white or not? What do you guys think? All right, if you had a chance to look at that, the answer is yes. And here's the rule for you. 2 pawns, even doubled pawns, is always going to be a win as long as they are healthy pawns. Now, what do I mean by healthy pawns? I mean pawns that are not going to get captured soon. So let me give you a good example of this. If you weren't paying attention and you said, well, I guess I'll just move my king here to e3. Nope, that's the wrong move. You just got to draw because now black plays king d5, taking away your options, but also attacking your pawn. Nothing can move except your king. And guess what? This is a Zugzwang. Essentially, you have to move away. You lose your pawn. Now it's a draw. We've seen this before. Go watch the previous episodes if you want. This is a draw. You need to keep the extra pawn to be able to win. You say, okay, what am I supposed to do, Nelson? Because if I go this way, he does the same thing. It just comes out like, what do you want me to do, right? The move is king to e2. And you're going to do a little dance before you come up to defend your pawn, because if you just go there right away, you know what he's going to do. All right, so let's keep going. King, well, first of all, if he goes here now, we win. Boom. We come up, we force him back, we come up, and this is exactly what we want to win, and we'll talk about how this is a win in just a second, okay? So black says, no, I'm not going to come up. I'm going to keep trying to trick you. I'm going to go king e6. And again, we have the same problem. If we come up, boom, he's got us. We have to move. We lose our pawn. We don't want to do that. So what do? It's your turn. What do you play? Obviously, it's not this move. It's king to f3. We're sneaking around the side, and we're keeping the option open that if he ever goes here, we are going to be the one who plays it, forcing his king back, and then we're happy. Right now, black says, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go get the opposition. I'm not going to let you in. But what do? Hopefully you noticed that now that the king has moved away, we can safely go king e3 because he's no longer threatening king d5, right? And now when he goes back, we have time to jump up. Okay? Now, one more thing that black could try here. What if they go here? And again, they're hoping we play king e3, and they're going to hit us with king d5. What do? Well, now, because our king is a little bit further advanced, we don't have to even go there. We just bypass that. We go straight to e4. And again, we've stopped the king and we win. Okay, so you have to make sure you do that little dance. Do not lose your pawn. You're going to need it to win the position. Now, let's talk about why this is a win. So black said, all right, I'm going to go here. We push our pawn. He goes here. We go here. He goes back. He gets the opposition. He knows the technique. We push our pawn. We go here. He goes straight back. He knows the technique, right? We talked about how this is a drawing technique. The issue is we have an extra pawn. And this is how you use it. It's really very simple. We go up, he gets the opposition, we push, and normally, if this guy on d3 was gone, we would have to just go here and get a stalemate. But it's not, so we use it to waste a move, forcing black's king out. We come up, hit the queen, and we win. Okay? So, that's the idea. 2 pawns is always going to be a win. However, this brings me to, I think this is, let's see, 1, 2, yeah, this is concept number 3. If it is a rook pawn, it's a draw, and it actually doesn't matter how many pawns you have. You could have 4 pawns. If they're rook pawns, you can't win. Unless you're able to box out black's king. So for example, if it was white's turn and you could go here, boxing his king out, well then of course you can win, your pawn just sneaks by. That's the only exception. Otherwise, it's always a draw, and here's why. King f7. He cuts off your king. He's not going to let you escape to let your pawn go by. And everywhere that you move, he's going to move to follow you. You go here, he goes here. You go here, he goes here. You go here, he goes here. Doesn't really matter. The only thing that you could do, sorry, I skipped a few moves. The only thing that you could do would be to push your pawn and then sneak out this way. You might say, I've got him. I got my king escaped. Now I can push the pawn. The problem is when you sneak out, his king goes in and he's going to get in front of your pawn. And the fact that you have all of these extra pawns means nothing because you can never push them without it being a stalemate. Okay? Check here. It doesn't matter. Wasting a move doesn't do anything. It's just a stalemate. Black's king is stuck. He can't move. Right? When the pawn was in the center, the king was forced to flush out the other side. But on the edge of the board, that doesn't happen. Okay? So all you need to know, rook pawns are always a draw if the king is in front like this. The only way would be like if black's king is over here and you box it out with your king, then of course you can win. Okay? Let's go to number 4. All right? Concept number 4, which is called the box trick or the rule of the box or whatever you want to call it. It's white's turn. This pawn is going forward. And the question that I have for you is, can black's king stop white's pawn? Yes or no? You should be able to answer this almost instantly if you know this trick. All right, well, if you had a chance to think about that, if you didn't know the trick, what you would have to do is be like, okay, here, go here, he goes here, let's go here, 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 here. Looks like I can stop it. Cool, but that's a lot of calculating. You don't have to do that in the middle of a game when you're trying to think about other stuff. You want to be able to just instantly look and see, can I stop the pawn or not? So the way that you do it is after the pawn moves, make a box like this, okay? And if the king can step inside of that box, which it can, you can very clearly see that. Any of these 3 would step inside. You can stop the pawn. That's it. And we already kind of talked about it, but we can verify that that works. There you go. Okay. And actually, let me make some moves here. Set up a different position. Even here, even though it kind of looks like the king is further away, there's the box. As long as you can step into it when it's your move, which in this case he can, you can stop the pawn. And we can see exactly how that works. There you go. Okay, so this is a nice little trick. It's just kind of useful in different situations where you have a pawn race and you're trying to, wait a second, can the king catch that pawn? Do the box trick. Super easy, super simple. It can help you in a lot of different situations. Okay. All right, let's go to the final concept. And this one is very, very important. So this position we're actually spend a good amount of time on. And before I say anything, I would like you guys to pause. White's pawns are going forward. And the question that I have for you is it a win for white? Is it a draw? Or is it a win for black? It's white's turn. Okay, what do you think the answer is in this position? All right, hopefully you had a chance to pause and think about that and you have your idea. The answer is, it is a win for white. It's not a simple win. It's a very tricky win, actually. But it is a win for white, and it has to do with a couple of factors. Primarily, this situation over here. Okay, this is very, very important that you pay attention to this. We've talked about this in previous lessons in this course, but this one pawn is stopping both of these two pawns because of the special move en passant. Okay, if black ever pushes this pawn 2 spaces to try to sneak past, en passant means you can go here capturing that pawn. Okay, just as an example, black does this, boom, we take it. Okay, that's en passant. That is very important because what that means is even though black has the advantage of 2 against 1, it doesn't help them because if this ever happens, this pawn's going to be ready to become a queen before this one is. These pawns, however, are not blockaded and they can be pushed to create a pass pawn. That is why the advantage is to white, and that is why white should win, but it's not that simple. All right, so let's take a look. C5 check. Makes a lot of sense as the first move for white. Black trades the pawn. And now black has a decision. Do they stay in front of the pawn or do they go this way? Let's start with this. Let's say they go here to keep you blockaded. What should you do? All right, if you had a chance to look at that, the simplest and easiest thing to do is just make a run for it, abandoning the pawn and going after these pawns, okay? He talked about fox in the chicken coop previously in the book. Same idea here. You're abandoning this pawn. You're coming in. You're going to get the pawn. Black's king is not in time to get in front of you or to capture you. It doesn't really matter. You just go here. You get the queen and you win, okay? So that's pretty straightforward. However, let's say black is a little bit more, tricky. And instead of going here, they go here. They don't let you just immediately go for their pawns. What should you do? All right, if you had a chance to pause, I hope you did. I hope you paused and you thought about that. I'm going to go out on a limb and say a lot of people would mess up this position right here. Okay, leave a comment and let me know if you messed this up. If you said push the pawn to force the king away, you would be wrong. This is not the right approach, and here's why. If you do this, you actually have a risk of losing the position. Watch this. The king comes over. They're immediately going to get your pawn, and you can't even invade yet. You have to waste another move. They take you. Now you can invade, but guess what? The king comes back, and if you go here, you lose. You actually lose the game because black defends their pawn, and eventually, over time, they're going to be able to force your king away and capture your other pawn and win the game. As an example, if you go here, they play, let's just say king e7. You try to keep them out. They push their pawn. You got to take, or they're going to have 2 pawns and they're going to win. So you take. Their king gets up here, and boom. Black gets the opposition. This is a winning endgame for black. If you don't remember, go watch the previous episodes. It's a win for black, right? How did this happen, right? Well, it's because when you gave up your pawn, you weren't ready to go gobble up their pawns. You still had to waste some time, and that's not what you want. Okay, so c6 was the wrong move. Now, if you're wondering, you could technically draw the position by not going for king f6. If you just go back and forth here with king d5, something like this would just be a draw. Okay, but still, you're trying to win, right? All right, so let me go back. Let's see, to this position right here. So they've played king e6. You don't want to play c6, so maybe king e4, right? This looks like a pretty good move. You get the opposition. You keep black's king out. Wrong move, and it's now a draw. That's not how you win the game because they're going to play f5 with check. Yes, you have the en passant, but their king is in position to take you, and your pawn cannot become a queen. Remember, you go here, look at that. There's the box trick. We can see it in action. You can very quickly see that the king's going to step inside the box, stop your pawn. If you try to use your king, they can actually get in front of you. And if you try to go here to do that, well, then they're going to start pushing their pawn, and you're going to get this position. pawn race, but you're not really in time. Both players get queens. The game is a draw. Okay? You say, Nelson, I thought we just covered everything. How do you win the position? All right, going back here. So you take with check. There you go here. You say, we talked about pushing your pawn. We talked about moving your king. The winning move is king to c4. Now, why is king c4 so much different than king to e4? Now that you know this is the winning move, see if you can figure that out. It's not easy, but see if you can figure it out. All right, well, if you had a chance to think about that, here's what's going on. We want to threaten to get a queen. We are going to need our king to help because black might try to at some point come and stop us, and we're going to need our king to help. But we also have to worry about the passed pawn that black is going to create over here. And at first glance, it's like king c4 is not really helping that. You're going the wrong way from worrying about this pawn. It doesn't make sense, right? Here's the thing. Watch this. Black plays f5. We take. They take. We go king to b5. We sneak around this side. This is critical. And actually, I should have had you pause here, but I forgot. King d5 does not win the game in this position. Okay, so let me actually just rephrase this question. In this position, I'll just go ahead and tell you, king b5 wins, king d5 draws. Draw, win. Okay, why? It's kind of the same question I asked before, but this is a little bit more clear here. Why? All right, if you had a chance to think about that, the problem with king to d5 is that black is still going to come over here, try to stop us. And the only way that we can guarantee he's not going to get in front and stop our pawn is by going to c6 so that we can sneak over to b7. The problem is he doesn't go there anymore. He says, thank you very much. I'm going to push my pawn now. And look what you have done. You've blocked your pawn with your own king, which makes you waste an extra move. And we get the same position that we've seen before. It's a draw. Okay, you say, Nelson, what are you trying to get out here? Well, I'm almost gonna land the plane. When we go to b5 instead of d5, watch what happens. If he just pushes the pawn, we're going to win. We have a lead, okay? He's got to try to stop it with his king. But whenever he makes a king move at any moment, let's just say now, we move our king to stop him. But look at this. We go to b6. Remember when we were here, we had to go to c6. That, my friends, is the key difference. We don't have to step in front of our pawn. We don't lose a move. And if he ever pushes, guess what? We push. He pushes, we push. He pushes, we get a queen first. And if he ever tries to stop us, that's when we make the extra king move. We only match our king move with his king move, and we never step in front of the pawn to waste time. And we always get there one move early before he has a chance to get a queen. Okay? Just to summarize. King d5, when he tries to block us, the only way we stop him is if we go here, but we have to step in front of the pawn, which is not what we need. That's why king b5 was the way to win. Now, I hope that you learn a couple things from this position. I'm going to go back to the beginning. I hope you learn a couple of things from this position. Number one, when you can create an outside pass pawn to lure your opponent's king away, that is good. That's usually a technique for winning. Number two, when you have pawns blockaded, where one pawn is blockading two of your opponent's pawns, that is very, very good, and you should look for opportunities to do that. I don't know, if earlier in this game, this person had their pawn on g4, maybe they moved it to g5 when they saw the pawns like this, right? That would be a very nice tactic to employ. Or maybe black messed up. Maybe black's the one who played g6 here, and they should have played f6 to create a pass pawn, something like that, right? That's the other key takeaway. And then the third takeaway is, even when you have a win, it is very, very tricky, and you can easily lose if you're not extremely accurate and paying attention to all of the little details, okay? So, I mean, even at my level, 20, let's just say 23, 2400 on chess.com, I mess up stuff like this all the time. I miss the little details all the time, okay? And so it's really, really important. You try to pay attention to those. You will get better the more that you practice them, but I hope that this position at least illustrates that, you can even lose a winning position like this. Okay, guys, last announcement that I have for you. If this video was helpful to you, please leave a comment and let me know. Hit the thumbs up button. If this video doesn't get a lot of views, I'm not going to keep doing this series. This is kind of a test. I want to see, I'm tweaking the thumbnails a little bit. I'm trying to see if people will start watching the series again. So if you liked it and you want the next part, make sure you let me know so that I don't scrap the series. Okay, thank you guys. Appreciate you, and I will see you next time.